Hello everybody, how you doing? I am your host Zoe and I'm so excited to welcome you back to the Link platform. Yes, we have been gone for a while and we apologize for that. For those who didn't see the announcement, we had a very busy season in corporate, so we had to take a break. But we are back now and everything is back to normal programming. Today, we're going to be talking about personal finance. Within that category, we're talking specifically about budgeting. So, I hope you enjoy the video. Let us know in the comment section if you have any questions or if there are any particular areas that you would like us to cover in our next videos. Before we get into the how to budget, we first want to address the what and the why for budgeting, right? A budget is simply just a spending plan. It's a tool where you estimate your current and future income, where you estimate your current and future expenses, and then make a plan on how you're going to allocate your future income between your expenses, your savings, and your investments. It's a plan. That is the what. The why is, why are you doing this? Why are you doing a budget? Why do you want to save? Why do you want to invest, right? Those are very, very important and very personal decisions. You need to write that down. You need to have it very clear in your head for why you are embarking on this important personal finance journey. We at The Link, we are young professionals. We recently started working and we are trying to figure out how to use our money and how to make sure that we have financial stability in the present, but also how do we make sure that we currently are creating wealth for our future selves. That is our why. We have individually even more personal reasons for why we're doing this, but overall, that is it. You need to figure it out, write it down. Okay, here are a few points to help you as you're writing down your why. The first point is to create financial stability that is in the present, to make sure you're able to pay your bills on time. Simple. The next thing is to build an emergency fund. An emergency fund is something that you're going to use obviously for emergencies. For example, last week I had a blocked drain. I had no way of knowing how to unblock a drain and I had to call out a plumber. This was quite expensive and it did set me back quite a bit. Without an emergency fund, things like that happen unexpectedly could stress you out quite significantly. So you need to plan for that. And then maybe you want to save for major expenses like a car or a house. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's money you're saving now over the medium term that you are eventually going to spend on something in the future. The next one is investing, and this is really for wealth generation. It's not money you're planning to spend in 5 or 10 years' time. It's for wealth generation so that you are comfortable in a much longer time period. Now that we know what a budget is and why we are creating a budget, we are going to learn how to budget. This is going to be the easiest step because you know why you're doing it, right? So remember, this is a tip I just want to give you before we get into the technicalities. The big tip for wealth generation is it's not about how much money you earn, it's about how much money you keep at the end of the month, or how much money you keep from the amount of money that you earn. That's the trick to wealth generation. It doesn't matter if you're earning 10,000, if you're earning 7, if you're earning 20, if you're earning 30. What matters is how you're spending that money and how much at the end of the day do you get to keep of your income. Okay, let's get into the budget process. This is simple. What you're going to do is you're going to start by listing your income. Some people have multiple streams of income. I only have one, so I've written down here my salary. And then you have to list down your expenses. How I list my expenses is I go into my banking app, I look at my bank statement for the past 3 months, and I look at what are the recurring expenses on a monthly basis, and I just create a list for my expenses. So those are normal things like rent, electricity, food, and all of that stuff. And I have written down here everything I can think of, and everything I've seen on my bank statement. I've even got here subscriptions, my hair, etc. Right? That's easy. So you have your income, you have your expenses written down, your recurring expenses. This is what we call your bare bone budget. What you want to do on top of this is add a small amount of money for bits and bobs that you won't necessarily budget for. So these are things like maybe you want ice cream, on a random day, or you go out with friends, all of these things. Maybe these things are not recurring things, but they're different bits and bobs that happen on a monthly basis. You want to include that as a line item in your expenses. What I've done is I've added to my food budget. If you look down here, my food budget looks like a lot for one person. The reason for that is I've added a bit of extra fat in the food budget for my bits and bobs. Once you've done that, you've got your income, you've got your expenses. Income minus expenses is the amount of money that you are left with that's available for savings and that's available for investments. I have a monthly debit order that goes into my Satrix and goes into my Easy Equities, and then I invest that accordingly. That is my long-term investments. I don't plan to use that money, and that's why I don't include the interest or the capital gains on that as like an extra stream of income, because it's not money that's available for me to spend. The next thing I have is my savings. This is for your emergency fund that we mentioned earlier, and I keep it in a low income generating sort of savings account. And that's just for emergencies, like things that I don't expect, like last month when I had the drain issue. And that's it. That's easy how to budget. We're now going to focus on the bottom section of our budget. That is your savings and your investments. First up, short-term savings. If you listen to the advice of financial advisors, they would tell you to keep between 3 to 6 months within your short-term savings. I personally disagree with that. That's because of my own personal circumstances. You can evaluate your own personal circumstances and decide what the right step is for you. Personally, I prefer to keep up to 1 month salary within my emergency savings account. And that's not necessarily something I'm going to do overnight. I'm going to work towards building it month on month. I have decided it's going to take me 12 months to get to my full month salary, and bit by bit I'm saving every single month and allocating towards my short-term savings fund. That's my emergency fund. Where do you save your emergency fund? You can keep that in a fixed term deposit in a savings account within your bank. Any bank that you use does offer a kind of savings account. The most important thing to consider is to keep it separate from your main account. So you have your main account that you use for your monthly expenses that we've spoken about. Then you have a savings account that you keep for your short-term savings. What I personally prefer to do is, as I've stated, I am saving 1 month salary in my emergency fund. I have divided that into 2. So half of my 1 month salary I'm keeping in a savings account that is readily accessible. The other half I am keeping in a fixed term deposit. So I'm using a 15-day notice deposit and keeping half of my short-term savings within that account to earn slightly higher interest. That's it. Here's another aspect I'd like you to consider in terms of short-term savings, right? You don't have to include this piece in your planning. I just want to let you know this is what I'm doing, and this is what makes me comfortable to only do short-term savings of 1 month instead of 3 to 6 months as recommended. I use my short-term savings for emergencies that I've highlighted. I also use it for traveling, and I use it for buying presents for loved ones. If you do have a keen eye, you would have noticed there was no line item for traveling in my budget, and there was no line item for presents in my budget. Like I said, that is a bare bone budget. So I use my short-term savings for those kinds of things. And okay, for those who are also keen-eyed, you would think, okay, what happens if you go on holiday, you spend all the money that's in your short-term savings account, you come back and then an emergency ensues? What will you do then? I have already thought about that, and that's why I do budgets. If that happens, I have the option to use my overdraft facility. I have the confidence that I'll be able to repay my overdraft facility in, the unlikely event that this happens. I can save, so I'm comfortable. I've got the discipline. I can pay back my overdraft facility, but it's not all doom and gloom. Hopefully, no emergency happens when I'm back from traveling. Okay, let's move on. The next one is my ultimate favorite, and that is because it is at the center of what we are doing here, and that is long-term investments. This is the center of our goal, which is wealth generation, and this is where it all starts. In terms of your investment allocation from your budget, you would want to save some of that in bonds, some of that in equities, maybe ETFs, maybe ETNs, and some unit trusts if you would prefer. If you would like some guidance in terms of like what to invest in, how to choose, how to think through the process, make sure to watch our How to Use Easy Equities video, because within that video, I do go into some detail in terms of how to analyze the information that you have at your disposal in order to choose the right investment for you. So make sure to check that one out. This is the final step of our budgeting process. It's called analyzing your budget. So you're going to take your Excel spreadsheet, your budget that we've created together, and you're going to categorize all of your expenses, including your investments, of course. And these are your budgeted items. So if you look at the second column, it's got my budgeted items and the different categories that I've allocated my expenses to. Don't look too much at the numbers. It looks very different from the budget that I showed you. That's because these are not my numbers. I'm still busy building this table. I used to use a piece of paper on a monthly basis to do my consolidation process, but I am now moving to the Excel version. So do that for yourself, okay? So second column, your budget. Third column is your actual spending. You're going to take your bank statement. You're going to consolidate all of your actual spending every month, and you're going to compare to your budget, and you're going to see what is the difference between what you actually spent and what you plan to spend. And then from that process, what you take from there is, did I under budget? Did I underestimate my expenses, or did I really spend a lot less carefully than I had intended to in this month? And then once you get the answer to those questions, you then make better decisions next time. That's why you do that for. And then on the left hand side, I've got my chart here. This tells me the shape of my budget. I use the second column in the table on the right, the budget column, and it tells me how much I'm spending on each item. So for example, on home, this is my rent and all my other household expenses. I'm spending 39% of my salary on household items. I do live in a very expensive city, so it makes sense, but I wish it was less, but it's a lot of money. I spend quite a lot of money on utilities as well. That's 10% of my salary. I spend 5% on my car. That's because it's mostly petrol and insurance. And then, that's the shape of my budget. Inflation in South Africa is really, really hectic, so I wish it was better, but this is what my budget looks like. What does give me a lot of comfort is that I am spending 25% on savings and investments. So that makes me really, really happy in terms of where I came from to where I am now. If you look at your chart and some things are making you feel a little bit unhappy, a little bit unsettled, that is an amazing thing, because that is why you're budgeting. You're trying to decide if you need to cut back on some things, or if you can do a little bit more of another thing. So please make sure to use this last step in your budgeting process. And that's it. That's it for our budgeting video. If you enjoyed this video, please let us know in the comment section. Please like our video and subscribe if you enjoy our content. Most importantly, please do let us know if there is any other topic you would like to address in terms of budgeting. If there is, you're concerned about debt and you would like us to elaborate further on how to deal with that, etc., please let us know in the comment section. Yeah, guys, remember, whatever you do this week, put your best foot forward. Cheers.